trust President Trump anymore.
Decyzje zapadają szybko.
President Zelensky is back to London with more speeches, messages and a presentation, very special presentation in the parliament. Hello, I'm Jenny Klochko. You're watching my podcast, the platform for guest stories beyond your daily newsfeed. Volodymyr Zelensky visited London this week and I had an opportunity to be present there. He was welcomed on the highest level. He was in the parliament, he met the king and also was welcomed with open hugs at the Downing Street 10. This visit, it actually reminded me his first visit after full-scale invasion. There was February 2023, if I'm not mistaken. And before we jump into comparing that first visit since the war started and today, I would like to point out a few things. First of all, he's the first Ukrainian president who met the British monarch at least 6 confirmed times.
And today I will have the honor to be received by His Majesty the King. It will be a truly special moment for me, for our country. And in particular because I will convey to him from all the Ukrainians the words of gratitude for the support His Majesty showed to them when he was still the Prince of Wales. And I also intend to tell him something that is, I think that is very, very, very important, not only for the future of Ukraine, but also for the future of Europe.
Also important moment to remind you that President Zelensky befriended 4 British prime ministers, and it gave me the impression that he feels very much comfortable, almost like at home at the Downing Street 10. As a Ukrainian, it makes me very proud because the previous presidents didn't have such friendship and such a warm welcome by the British prime ministers and monarch. And also, it is very important because it's the darkest hour in Ukraine's history. And President Zelensky always comes with a to-do list. So today I would like to compare us the speech he delivered in the parliament back then in February 8th, I think, 2023, his first visit after the full-scale invasion, and today this time he delivered speech in the parliament on the 17th of March. And the important thing that he said back then, that the world needed British leadership, Ukrainian bravery, and he also was pushing for the coalition of the willing. So now we know it's the coalition of the willing. Back then there was the coalition of friends.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have already achieved remarkable results, and we must make every effort to turn our achievements into the foundations of the future global security architecture. The world needs your leadership, Britain, just as it needs Ukrainian bravery. When the full-scale invasion began, we, together with you, Britain, and United States and other allies, formed a true coalition of friends. That is very important. You were among those very few who had helped before the large-scale invasion began, exactly as it will be necessary every time in the future to prevent aggression from happening.
First of all, at that time, in 2023, he expressed his gratitude for training Ukrainian servicemen to operate British Challengers tanks.
Ukrainian soldiers are being trained in Britain, in particular to operate Challengers. Your main battle tanks, and it's a tank coalition in action. And I thank you, Rishi. Thank you very much for this powerful defensive step for tank assistance. Thank you.
If you have been on this podcast quite some times, you should know that I had an opportunity to go at the training ground where British officers were training Ukrainian yesterday civilian to become today skillful and effective soldiers on the front line.
We run an inoculation serial here, inoculation lane, where we try and get them used to the kind of feelings and thoughts they would have in combat. However, it's almost impossible to fully prepare someone psychologically for combat, and that's something they'll probably learn on their very first day in combat and know it from then on.
So this scenario which is happening here, exploding and attacking the vehicle, is this sort of typical, and how it's more sort of physical damage or psychological for the...
So what's this scenario over here, you've got a vehicle that's been damaged, I think, by a mine. Mines are a really high threat in Ukraine. There's thousands and thousands of mines have been laid, both anti-tank and anti-personnel. So in this scenario, the vehicle has been immobilised by a mine and people inside have been wounded. That's a very typical type of injury that you're going to get in Ukraine. So what we want to do is make sure that they can take a casualty out of the vehicle without injuring themselves more. So, for example, if they've got a blast wound or a fragmentation wound and they drag them out of the vehicle, that could make the injury worse. So what we try and do is teach them some principles of making sure that certain parts of the body are immobilised and make sure that they're supported and they're carefully carried out. All of that is skills that need teaching. And as you can see there, they've successfully extracted that casualty.
It is. Well, probably it's a bit easier for me because I am kind of acquainted with the language, so I'm acquainted with the culture, and that part clearly makes it easier for me. And speaking of the training, I like it. Every single bit is useful because there are many things to learn, and useful, handy. I hope I will not need some parts of it, but I'd rather be prepared.
Another important message back then, it was about long-range missiles.
The coalition of long-range missiles is the latest of all. It will allow us to make the evil completely retreat from our country by destroying its headways deep in the occupied territories. And it's not just, I'm not speaking just about weapons. We proved together that the world truly helps those who are brave in defending freedom, and thus paves the way for a new history. A history of the world that knows how to be quick in help, who knows how to be effective in defense, who knows how to remain principled in dark hours.
I want to remind you, because it is important, how significant was assistance with Storm Shadow missiles, which was initiated by British, and they convinced the French because it's joint manufacturing, and how effective Ukrainian servicemen were. So I need to read for all those successful and important targets. This year, on the 10th of March, the Kremny L plant was damaged. Since Ukraine received Storm Shadow missiles, successful strikes have been reported on the following elements of Russia's war machine. October in 2024, the command post of the 35th and 27th Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade, as well as the command post of the 2nd Combined Arms of the Armed Forces of Russian Federation. October 21st in 2025, the Bryansk chemical plant. This is an important component of the aggressor's state's military-industrial complex. It produces gunpowder, explosives, and components for rocket fuel, including those used in ammunition and missiles that the enemy uses to strike Ukrainian territory. And on December 25th in 2025, the Novoshakhtinsk oil products plant in the Rostov region, and this is one of the largest suppliers of petroleum products in southern Russia, providing the occupying army with diesel fuel and aviation kerosene. Also, these Storm Shadow missiles did lots of troubles for Russians in Crimea. Let me just remind you what happened. So first of all, it's headquarters of the Russian Black Sea Fleet in Sevastopol, September 22nd in 2023. It was missile strike hit the building, causing severe damage, effectively disabling the headquarters and resulting in the deaths and injuries of Russian officers. Also, ships and vessels of the Black Sea Fleet in September 2023 strikes on the large landing ship Minsk and the diesel electronic submarine Rostov-on-Don in Sevastopol Bay while they were under repair, rendering the restoration impractical. And also in port infrastructure of Feodosia in December 2023, missile strikes, probably Storm Shadow, destroyed or critically damaged the large landing ship Novocherkassk.
Ракеты пошли! Storm Shadow!
And Russian command posts and bases. Strikes were carried out on military bases and command posts, including the area of Verkhny Sadove, Sevastopol, which Russian propaganda had referred as bunkers. So, my favorite moment, if you ask me, oh Jenny, what's your favorite moment in that speech on the 8th of February in 2023? I'll tell you, it's when he comes to the moment about wings and the freedom. And as a journalist, I can say it's just well done, the speechwriter, because it was quite a powerful moment when President Zelensky called Ukrainian fighter jet pilots the kings. It was true. The Ukrainian sky needed protection, and those guys, no matter the age and the experience, they tried their best. Many lost their lives.
In Ukraine today, every Air Force pilot is a king. For us, just for us, for our families. Because they are so few, they are so precious that we, the servants of our kings, do everything possible and impossible to make the world provide us with modern planes to empower and protect pilots who will be protecting us. And I am proud of our Air Force. And I brought a present from them to you, Great Britain. Yes, please, open please. Yes. Yes. To the speaker. Yes, speaker. Hello. And I will explain. It's the helmet of a real Ukrainian pilot. He is one of our most successful aces, and he's one of our kings. And the writing on the helmet reads, "We have freedom, give us wings to protect it."
So the United Kingdom did everything to help Ukraine with the protection of the sky. First of all, they were training the pilots, And again, I was very lucky to meet them at the airbase, and here's the fragment from their report.
So Interstorm is that overarching operation that covers all of the training for Ukrainian personnel in order to support that advanced fast jet capability, which will be F-16 for Ukraine. And I remember in February 23, the then Prime Minister announced that the UK would provide that training.
One thing we will be doing, starting actually relatively soon, is training of Ukrainian pilots, and that's something that we've discussed today.
And to be able to be part of that training, for us in the UK, to be able to support Ukraine from here is really important to us. I cannot imagine how people of Ukraine must feel when they're under this threat. I cannot imagine how the students that are here learning to fly feel when their families are at home under this threat. And yet they come to work every day. They are singularly laser focused to get on with the job so that they can go home, fly, fight and win.
This time President Zelensky didn't come to ask, he actually came to offer to protect the future. And my favorite moment of his speech on the 17th of March this year, it was when he gave the iPad to His Majesty the King. And I think it's very smart communicative move. And also it symbolizes that now war is data-driven and the power is access to the information. So giving iPad to the king is quite a strong diplomatic symbol.
Today I began my visit with an audience with His Majesty King Charles, and I gave him the iPad. Really, like this, as a sign of respect and gratitude, and to strengthen our cooperation with the United Kingdom, with your great country. Thank you so much.
This visit of President Zelensky to London made me think about the geographical location of his messages and how powerful it was through the history. So if we look a bit back, not too far, but I mean 1940s, and London was the last place to stand against Hitler because the Europe had fallen, and it was like the microphone and the last microphone of defiance, and Winston Churchill used it, and his speeches, particularly one, it was so powerful that it still echoes today.
We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds, we shall fight in the fields and in the streets, we shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender.
So I don't think there was a strategy, maybe it was, but I think there was a survival which turned into language, and it resonated with so many back then and resonates now when the countries, the leaders of the countries feel how fragile is the peace. And back then, after Churchill, the world heard the voice of General Charles de Gaulle. There was the voice of exile, and he addressed to the nation, and his famous words were that we lost the battle, but we haven't lost the war. And it was a very important symbolic gesture because he was addressing to the defeated nation.
Que l'honneur des Français consiste à continuer la guerre aux côtés de leurs alliés, et nous sommes résolus à le faire. Nous espérons qu'un jour, une force mécanique supérieure nous permettra d'avoir la victoire et de délivrer la patrie.
Back then, Charles de Gaulle, he rebuild sort of legitimacy of the fallen France, the government which had surrendered. And so back then London was an important symbolic place of exile. If we look at today, London stays the global stage for the world leaders to address. And today President Zelensky, when he comes to London, and this last time when he was here, he wasn't in exile, he wasn't on the brink of collapse. He came as a president of country at war, and he was carrying different message.
Dear friends, we must build security the way so that the evolution of security stays ahead of the evolution of war.
So if we compare three speeches, because I really wanted, for me it resonated, and I think they all become very symbolic for the world history, for our presence. And so the Churchill speech, he was addressing to history. Charles de Gaulle, he was addressing to the belief, and Zelensky, he addressed about the system of peace, of security. Why this so important, the Zelensky speech today? Because he talks about the future architecture of security in the world. And from today's war, it's very important to remember that back then in 1940s, the war was straightforward. It was the line which you could draw on the map. Today, war is not somewhere else. War is everywhere because of the drones and because of the long-range missiles.
If evil wins, the evolution of war will cross any distance on Earth. No ocean will help, no desert, no mountains. That is why it is worth helping protect life.
London also became the place we could call magical place, because Churchill here he managed to turn the fear into defiance. Charles de Gaulle, he turned the defeat into continuity, fight for freedom. And Zelensky turned the vulnerability into expertise. And now he has something to offer with the everything war achieved by Ukrainian servicemen. And London, at the end, it became a very symbolic and important place where powerful speeches, they are not just sound, but they also turn into important historical moments. Thank you for watching, and let me know what you think in the comments. If you find it interesting, today's episode, please hit the like button. YouTube loves that. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Thank you for watching again. I'm Jenny Klochko. Take care.